1%? Yeah, maybe like one at a time. But can you even think of everything about that person at a time? Do you only know people? Do you know things other than people? Hope so. How much of our minds can be conscious at one time and how much are unconscious? Are we talking about 90-10? Are we talking 99-1? Are we talking about 99.99 something? Probably. Okay. Now, if that's the case, which is more important? Well, of course, we've got to be conscious of things. That's very important, right? But is this other bit that we don't know important or not? Only when you need it. Okay. What's in there? Does anyone know what they've got under the surface there in their minds? Stuff. Yeah, and we might not think it's very important, but that might be a bit like the captain of the Titanic. Oh no, don't worry. It's just a little iceberg. Boom, right? And there goes the ship. Now, an interesting thing about icebergs is that when they start to melt, whole big chunks can break off, right? Yeah? Like glaciers, whole big bits can break off. And when that happens, it changes the center of gravity of the iceberg, right? And if it changes it sufficiently, what might that iceberg do? It might flip upside down. Can our mind do that?
Yes.
Yeah, it can, right? And it all depends, and it's largely on this bit. It's not so much just on the little bit at the top, right? Trauma, for example, very powerful, intense trauma could be metaphorically described as a big chunk of the iceberg breaking off or having some change and the whole thing flipping, and a person from 1 year to 12 or 6 months later are almost like they're a different person. This material, this stuff here is very important. Okay, that's the first stage. But now we've got to continue on looking at the second phase, these active reflections. We've got the stimuli, the things that are unconscious, then start to become manifest. Right? Another metaphor that's given for them is that they're like seeds. So like a seed which is planted in the soil. Yeah? Can you see the seed when it's planted in the soil? No, right? What stimuli do the seeds need to grow? This is a trick question because people often get this wrong. What stimuli does a seed need to sprout? Water? Warmth. Water and warmth. It doesn't need sunlight. In fact, sunlight is what a seed does not need. It actually needs to be in a dark place. When it sprouts and comes above the soil, then it needs light to grow leaves and grow up. But the seed to sprout, right? Water, warmth, spring rain, in other words. Spring gets warmer, ground thaws, it gets moist. So this is a similar idea. It grows up, and once it sprouts above the soil, then you can see it, right? Before that, it's in the earth, and it could be sprouting, but you don't know. And it might even take a little while, a few days or whatever, sprouting under the soil before it pops up above the soil. And then, oh look, it's a little sprout. It's coming out of the ground. I can see it now. Right? It was very small. Slowly it will grow. So at the second phase, it's when they become active and we can see them. We can identify them if we're paying attention. Right? Not necessarily, we might. Now, the key thing, the most important thing, and the ones that we've been referring to here, include what we refer to in Buddhism as afflictions. And again, two categories. The first type of afflictions are, we should probably just flip onto here, are the ones based around those sensations. Pleasant sensation, craving. Yeah, this craving for pleasant sensations is an affliction. Aversion towards unpleasant sensations is also an affliction. By affliction, it also includes the notion that when that emotion is taking place, the mind is disturbed. It is not at peace. Right? We often have trouble about this because many people cannot distinguish between the pleasant sensation and the craving that we have towards the pleasant sensation. Right? A lot of people can't distinguish the two. This is like present, craving immediately, and I can't separate the two. Right? And they think, well, how can that be a bad thing? How can you call it an affliction? It feels so good. No, it's the sensation that feels good. The sensation is not the problem. The sensation of pleasure or happiness is not the problem. The problem is the disturbance of responding with the affliction of craving, and likewise for aversion as well. So these are the emotional afflictions. And the second types of active afflictions are based on those perceptions, right? So they said, what is this? And we said, it's a cup. Okay. We don't only have perceptions of these things, we start to construct relationships between things. Right? We start to construct relationships between things. So for example, if I say, what is this? And you say, what do you say? What's this? It's a cup. It's your cup. Yeah, it's a cup. So when you walk in here, you'd head on over to the front here, you'd grab the cup before the lecture begins and just start to drink from it? Why not? It's my cup. Okay, so it's not just a cup, it's a cup that belongs to someone. Yeah? Just for example, I'm not going to start to pick up your phone and make calls. Right? But I can do it with an identical device in my pocket. So we identify these things as phones or cups. We make phone calls, we drink from them, but we associate them with people, including ourselves and others, right? There's also a relationship between these constructions of views and ideas and the emotions themselves. So what sorts of things, okay, if we have a particularly powerful, pleasant sensation from some experience or thing, how do we respond? With craving. You want more. Okay, so what do you want to do towards that? If that chocolate cheesecake was good, and you want more chocolate cheesecake, what do you need to do? So you're in the cafe, can you just reach over the counter and start eating more chocolate cheesecake? You have to buy it first. And what changes then? Does the chocolate cheesecake then suddenly become edible when you buy it, or does it have some magic transformation? Is it the same cheesecake in the counter and on your plate? It becomes mine, right? And then it's okay to eat. But if it's not mine, then it's not okay to eat, right? And this is a purely social construct. It's a purely social construct. But it's something that we all agree to, pretty much. Very, very interesting. Okay, so I like this cheesecake. I want this cheesecake to be mine. What do we do about people who bring us happiness? What kinds of relationships do we want to have with regard to them? You make me feel so wonderful. So what kind of relationship do we want to do? Make friends. And they still make you feel so wonderful. And what do I, right? Okay. So first, this person is my friend. Right? If that becomes, for example, a romantic relationship, how do we refer to that person? My significant other, partner, or we can even go so far as to say not that this person is my something or other, but mine, and also, what do we mean by when we say my other half? What does that really mean? Is that mine, or is that actually half of me? Right, that's going even from mine to half of me. Or for parents in the audience, how do you feel towards your children? I mean, they might be my children, but and also in a sense they are a part of us, our own flesh and blood. What, of course, if your children became like so absolutely horrible that you were to disown them, what would you do? They're yours. Go and talk to your father. Yeah. So the pleasure that we get is also there's a correlation between that and then appropriating these things first as my something, and then me, very much a part of me. The things that we appropriate as part of me are of course the things that we are much less able to let go of, much more reluctant to let go of. We start to make some very complex relationships here. What do you see? Pain, right? Now what? One's in the eyeball, one's in the tooth, or like the tongue, one's in the throat, one's in the ear. All these things begin from the point of our senses contacting the world. Right? They begin from our senses contacting the world. And if we undergo this process in ignorance, we can bring around a huge amount of afflictions and distress for ourselves. Okay. Then these begin to manifest in our physical and verbal actions. Right? So for example, the child, they do something bad, we want to disown them. Right, and we respond by saying that. Right? You take after your mother, or you take after your father, etc., etc. That could be on the positive side or the negative side. Right? But this happens once the active mental emotions and also perceptions and constructions of views and ideas become sufficiently strong enough that we act upon them. Right? You know, you could be having a conversation with someone that you don't really like, and you might be like, well, I don't really want to be having this conversation, but out of politeness, we continue to talk about it, right? So you don't necessarily act on that. You say, hi, I don't like you, I want to go away. We don't respond like that. But if it becomes intense enough, then we act upon it. Two basic forms, physical and verbal. Of course, verbal is also physical, but this is a useful distinction to make. And a lot of these physical and verbal actions are based around seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Right? When you say, I'd like another slice of chocolate cheesecake, you know, it's because you're missing your vitamin C for the day? Probably not, right? It's just because we want the taste. Right? We do a lot of actions. Pleasure over there, go that way. Pain comes here, get away from it. Bouncing around. And also, a lot of our physical and verbal actions are also trying to maintain these relationships of what I want to be me or mine. Right? A lot of our actions are based around that. Okay, now as we've said, while this is on the external material level, the first two phases are at the mental level. Buddhism accepts that we have both. The external actions are very important, but because they are driven by the internal states, we still say the internal states are more important still. So a relationship between mind and matter, both are there, but they're not necessarily parallel with each other. Okay. I'd like to look at this as a process. I'm going to give an example. Imagine you need to buy a new pair of jeans and you're walking, I don't know where you buy jeans in LA. Place where they sell jeans, where there's a lot of clothing stores. So you're walking down the road. You have sense organs, right? You're like scouting out anything with a hint of denim. Like tracking down. There are various objects out there. There's a road, there is buildings, there are cars, there are people. You might see jeans that are on other people, but you can't buy them. You only have to see the ones that are in the store. So you're walking on the road, looking in all the shop windows, right? You've got your sense organs and your sense objects out there. These are material things, right? These are matter. In the process of time, we then have cognition. The fact that we can see these things, right, is actually it's a mental state, right? Seeing itself is a mental thing. It's not a physical thing, right? You're seeing this range of things. And you might be walking along like this, and our range of vision, for example, is quite broad. It's almost 180 degrees. So there are distinctions between Monica's sitting right in front of me, who I can see very clear, and then other people who I can't identify at this point, until I, of course, turn, and then I can do this, right? So you've got this huge range that's all within the range of vision. Vision, this is cognition. We then have a process of sensations that come up, right? So you might be walking along, you see something, right? Oh, what's that? Might turn towards it, look at it. From these sensations, we might have this. It might be pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. We might respond in turn with craving or aversion or ignorance. And we also have perceptions of what these things are. And we might form constructions about these things as me, mine, and I. This belongs to me, or this is part of me. Right? We then may have intentions with respect to these objects based on both the emotional content and also the conceptual content as well. That feeds into it. This is all mental, and these are coming up from these underlying potentials, right? The potentials are there, but they need this stimuli for them to manifest and start to act. When they become strong enough, we have physical and verbal actions, and these in turn feed back in. The emotions themselves sow seeds for future material that can come up, right? We can condition ourselves. You know, like Pavlov's dog. You constantly ring the bell, you give it food, you ring the bell, you give it food, you ring the bell, you give it food, and then you ring the bell, and the dog salivates, right? You've conditioned it already by repeatedly going through this process. Sowing seeds, and it needs the stimulus of the bell. But also the physical body feeds back into the sense organs, because we can change how we look at things, how we listen to things, how to reach out and touch things, right? The mind controls those actions. And we can use our physical body to also move the object. If I want to have a closer look, I can choose to get close here, or I can pick it up like this as well. So this is basically back on the material level, which then alters this relationship, which brings about new cognitions and sensations and perceptions. Right, this is a process. So imagine you're walking along. You see something out the corner of your eye. You've got, I need a new pair of jeans, and you need a new pair of jeans. Look at it. I see something in the corner of your eye. It looks dark blue. What might you think? It could potentially be a pair of jeans, right? You see it. There's not much of a sensation, a basic perception. You change your physical body to alter your sense of it. You turn towards the object and look at the object. Then what do you see? It is a pair of jeans. I see it very clearly. You might have some feeling towards it. Ooh, they look pretty cool. These jeans look pretty awesome, right? They're me. Yeah? That dress is so you. Are you calling me a dress? No, but right, they fit with this image that I've created. If it did, like, they look nice, but on someone else, it's a different matter. So we look at that, we see it. Okay, they look good. These jeans look awesome. What are you going to do? You're going to go into the shop first. Yeah, I always get this one. It's just buy it. They look good. Buy them. Look at the price first, and the price tag is $500. Okay. Do you have a pleasant feeling or a painful feeling now? Okay. But they look so good, and you've got an awesome party that you have to go to. So what are you doing?
Make more money.
You're trying to like balance the pain of the price tag with the pleasure that you're going to get from these jeans, right? Okay, 500 was maybe a bit excessive. 200, okay. You want to try them on. Can you just try them on? You probably have to talk to the person at the counter first. Why? They belong to them. Okay, you make a bargain. You can get these jeans for $120. You going to buy them? You really need these jeans and you've got a really awesome party to go to. Okay, you're going to buy them. Thanks for playing along. Thanks. No, we're not going to buy them. Okay, you buy them. Why buy them? Why can't you just borrow them? You tell the shop assistant, look, I've got this awesome party, these jeans are amazing. I just want to borrow the jeans. I'll bring them right back tomorrow. Is this going to wash?
Yes.
You leave the tag on. Only leave it on if it's 500, right? You buy them for 120 and leave the tag on that says it's 500. Yeah, that's smart. Okay, why can't you just borrow them in general? It's not right. We have very strong ideas about possession. You can only do these things. Part of possession is the idea that we have rights to do whatever we like with that thing, right? Okay, you decide to fork out the money, you take it, you wear them to the party, everyone says, oh, they're so wonderful, they're so you. And your idea about what I think I am or what I think I want to be or what I think I want to portray gets reinforced, right? Constantly feeding back in. So you decide a week later to wear them to another party. And do the same amount of people say, these jeans are awesome? Only the people that went to the party last week, right? You wear them a month later, 6 months later. Are you still getting the same experience out of those jeans? No. Why not? But they're the same jeans. Why not? Okay. So is the pleasant sensation in the jeans themselves? No. But we think that, right? We actually think that. We think that the pleasant or unpleasant qualities are inherent in the object rather than in our relationship with it. So by the time you've worn these pants every day, oh, they are so you. Because you don't have any other clothes. This is how we identify you. You've worn them for like 3 years now, right? What happens? I mean, you go, sounds like I gotta tell you this, you've got to get rid of those jeans. They're not working anymore. They're somehow malfunctioning. Right? And so the very experiences that we get from them, the very perceptions that we get from them are not inherent in those, they're conditional things, right? After all, we have to get rid of them, we have to pass them on to someone else. But how often are we going through this process of our sense organs seeing an object? We see it or hear it or smell it or taste it, we get some sensation, we have some emotional response, we have some perception, we create some relationships about it, and we have some intentions and actions towards that object. How many times do we do this in a day? You're even doing it right now, aren't you? You're doing it right now. Like if this is an enjoyable lecture, I'll stay. If it's not, I'm going to the dining hall because the food there is pretty good. It's better than this lecture. I'm out of here. Okay. That's why I have to entertain you. I hope I'm doing it okay. So this is this process that we're going through. This is the process of the construction of dissatisfaction. After a while, those genes are no longer satisfying. Okay. Now, most forms of psychology have some kind of personality analysis, different personality types, and Buddhism is no exception. One of the ways of doing it is based on 6 different types of mental or emotional state. And the first 3 are based on different emotions. The desirous type is a person whose most dominant emotion, most dominant motivating force is desire. Gotta get me some pleasure. That's what drives me. The second type is the aversion type, whose main motivating force is actually not seeking pain, but is trying to avoid pain. Right? How do I base my life? It's avoiding the nasty stuff. That's really what drives me. Right? I've got to avoid the bad stuff. Second type is the deluded type, which is just kind of generally confused about things and doesn't really pay attention or know what's going on. So these are 3%. Now these are not only desire or only aversion, but very strong traits that often come up within this person's state of mind. The other three, then there's two more based on concepts. One is the conceit type. The main focus is all about me. It's all about my image and who I am. This could include being self-centered, conceit, also jealousy as well. Jealousy is very much about me versus other people. And there's also the scattered type. It's like a lot of excessive, disordered thinking, just thinking about stuff all the time. Oh, dang, I can't walk around here. I'm like walking everyone's like cell phone photo shots. Lastly, there's a type which is a mixed type, which has some of each of these afflictions. Now, if we were to take all of these different people, we're going to take these 6 people to a restaurant and get something to eat. It's a bit like a joke, right? In New Zealand, it would be something like an Englishman, an Australian, and a New Zealander go into a bar. I don't know what the LA equivalent is. I'm sure you've got one. So we're going to take these 6 personality types into a restaurant. How does the desirous type order the food? Dessert first. And then dessert again, because it was really good. And I like the pasta. The pasta's good. You've got to have the pasta. I'll order the pasta for you. Right? And we've got to get some of the... Right? They order like twice as much as what they need. They're like, this is so good. And they're waxing lyrical about the food. The aversion type, how do they order? I don't like the pasta here. Last time I came, the pizza was horrible too. And they said, look at that waiter. Look at it. Look at the attitude of the people. Just order something, okay? Just give me some white rice. Okay? Thank you. The deluded type. Like, I don't know what to order. What's good? You say, well, we came here last week. Don't you remember? We did? We came here last week? What did you order? I don't know. I can't remember. The conceit type. How does the conceit type order? How are they going to order? What's their decision going to be based on? Yeah, maybe the price. The cheapest or the most expensive? The most expensive. Or, trying to show off something. Right? I want to look like, and a bottle of your finest champagne. Wah, wah. Even though I really can't tell champagne from grape juice, but I'm going to fool my friends into thinking I know my stuff. Right? Okay. What about the scattered type? It's probably like playing with your cell phone and not looking at the menu. Like, did you know there's another restaurant next door? We can go there instead. And you're like, can you order something? And then they're like, I got some stuff I got to do, and then I was talking about this and that. Can you order something? Because we're getting hungry here. The mixed type could be a bit of everything mixed together. Okay, these are the 6 basic personality types. The question is, why do we need to know these things? Why do we need to know these personality types? Because different people have different mental makeup, and we need different remedies to deal with different problems. Okay. We're going to go out to dinner with these people. Could be interesting. That girl in the middle. She's got some issues. Okay. Let's then flip back to cultivating the mind in reverse order. We're going to go through these stages in reverse order. First thing we need to do is go back to the relationship between personality types and different Buddhist practices. There's a relationship. Once we know our personality type, we can choose the most suitable practice of meditation. The basic principle is a lot like if we were sick. Okay, this is like mental health, it's not physical health. But if we're sick, we don't feel physically well, you go to the doctor and he says, "Doctor, I'm feeling horrible." And the doctor goes, "Yeah, you're sick." And they're like, "Yeah, what should I do?" And they're like, "Take some medicine or something." So what kind of medicine? I don't, just take some medicine, you're sick. Sound like a good doctor? Not very good. So you go next door to the, what do you call it in the US? To the drugstore, and you start buying some medicine. So what have you got in special today?